Hello! In the future, humanity uses genetic engineering to stop people from aging on their 25th birthday. Once that's done, everyone has exactly 1 year to live, but this time can be increased by receiving a salary or by exchanging it with other people. In this world, time is actually money. Its amount is reflected on a timer on the wrist, which inexorably counts down. All goods are paid for with it. For a cup of coffee, for example, you have to pay with 3 minutes of your life. While the rich enjoy eternal youth, the poor live literally 1 day at a time, but it's only a matter of time before the protagonist, who wants to break this rotten system, appears. Will Solace wakes up at home. He's only 28, but yet again there is less than 24 hours left on his timer. Today is his mother Rachel's birthday. She's turning 50, but they don't have time to celebrate the anniversary. The woman has only 3 days left, with her apartment bills and loan payments still due, more than half of her time. Will promises to earn enough so they can finally have some rest. Rachel also leaves for work, and they arrange to meet the next evening. By then, the woman's time will be running out, and her son will have to share his with her. In the meantime, the mother gives Will 30 minutes for lunch, and they part, exchanging words of love as they leave. Along the way, Will meets a little beggar named Maya. She asks for a minute of his time, and the boy generously shares 5 with her. Will jogs to the time storage wallet factory, where he meets his best friend, Borel. They buy coffee, which has gone up in price by a full minute since yesterday, and see men outside fighting for time in an arm wrestling match. Will's father often did time wrestling, but his son refuses to take that risk. At the end of the day, Will receives his paycheck, but it is smaller than he expected.
Where's the rest?
Never met the quota.
My units are up from last week.
So's the quota.
Will goes to a bar, where he takes an hour that's owed to him from a card player he knows. Borel, already tipsy, points to a rich man named Henry, who has been buying drinks for other visitors all evening. Will approaches him and tries to reason with the man. If he draws so much attention to himself in this neighborhood, he'll get robbed very quickly. As if to confirm the guy's words, gangsters, with Fortis at the head, show up at the bar. At the sight of the gangsters, the visitors immediately leave the establishment, but Will stays inside to watch the events unfold. Fortis says he wants to compete with him in arm wrestling for the whole century that Henry wears on his wrist.
Come on. I'm an old man. Turned 75 last week.
From the anxiety, the man feels nauseous and runs off to the restroom. One of Fortis's men watches after him to make sure that the guy doesn't escape, and that's when Will shows up and knocks the bandit out. Together with Henry, they run out into the street and hide from the chase in an abandoned building. One of the pursuers tells the boss that he has recognized Will. Henry confesses that he is 105 years old and is sick of living. His body is young, but his mind is not what it used to be. Will gets irritated and doesn't understand how he can be so careless about the time he and his mother worked so hard for. He asks if the rich man has seen other people die, and Henry replies that this is how the poor people pay for the immortality of millionaires. There is enough time for everyone, but somebody has to die so that the world doesn't become overpopulated. Yet some are not willing to die and are saving up millions of years for themselves and their children. Henry asks Will what he would do if he had so much time on his hands as he does.
If I had all that time, I sure as hell wouldn't waste it.
Upon waking up in the morning, Will discovers that while he was asleep, Henry transferred him 116 years. The man has left himself just 5 minutes to get to the nearest bridge, where he met his death. Will doesn't even have time to say goodbye, and gets caught on the bridge's security cameras. Afterwards, he goes to Borel's house, where he meets his wife with a newborn baby in her arms. She laments that 25 years must pass before the baby can share its time with its poor parents. Will tells his friend about last night's events and shares 10 years of his life. Without thinking twice, Borel sets out to drink them away at a bar. Meanwhile, Will's mother pays off her loan and has only an hour and a half left to meet her son. She gets on the bus, where she learns that the fare is doubled and she can't pay it now. Rachel begs the driver and passengers to lend her some time, saying that her son will give it back at the bus stop, but no one helps her. The credit office has already closed, and the woman begins to run to beat death. Will realizes that his mother didn't get on the bus and hurries towards her as well. They can already see each other, but when Rachel falls into her son's arms, her heart no longer beats. The next day, the timekeepers who investigate crimes retrieve Henry's body from the river. Raymond, their leader, orders them to search for the time that has gone off in an unknown direction. He notices the cameras and later finds Will's face on the footage, and the guy is already ordering a cab, in which he crosses several time zones, separating people with money from the poor.
We don't normally make pickups in this zone.
I was lost.
At every border crossing, he pays more and more until he reaches New Greenwich, a ticket to which costs a whole year. When Will gets out of the car, he immediately begins to run, as he is used to spending as little time as possible moving around. He receives sidelong glances and realizes that he must not stand out among those who own all the time in the world. The strange guy is spotted by a girl with red hair getting into a limousine. Will checks into a luxurious room and eats at a local restaurant. The waitress notices that Will is not from around here because he swallows his food very quickly. Will leaves her a whole week as a tip, and the girl advises him to change his clothes. Raymond receives information about Will and his movement. The man realizes that he had known his father. Will, in his new suit, arrives at the casino and sits down at the poker table. There he meets billionaire Philip, who praises the game of his new acquaintance. The two of them stay in the game, and Philip raises the stakes each time, forcing Will to bet everything he has won at the table. The rich man is joined by the red-headed Sylvia, who has been watching Will the whole time. She is shocked by the boldness of the guy with only 30 seconds left on his wrist. The last card scores him a straight that beats Philip's 3 queens. Will becomes the owner of an entire millennium. Sylvia, whom he considers attractive, turns out to be Philip's daughter, not his wife.
You've taken years off my father's life.
Which is normally what you do.
The girl invites Solace to a party, to which Will arrives in his newly purchased sports car worth 59 years of his life. Sylvia, her grandmother, and her mother greet him on the doorstep. The girl dismisses the guards, who follow her around, and dances with Will. She recalls the guy running down the street and says she sometimes envies poor people because her life is boring and meaningless. In response, Will invites her to go outside to get some fresh air. The mansion stands at the ocean shore, and the guy offers to get into the water. Sylvia has never done this, even though she lives a stone's throw away. She feels the adrenaline and dives in after the boy. The girl is still hesitant to kiss the newly met guy and returns to the shore. The young couple manages to hide their adventure from Philip, who invites Will to play poker. Suddenly, the timekeepers show up at the mansion and take the boy away for questioning. Raymond doesn't believe the story of Henry's self-sacrifice, and Solace's time is confiscated, leaving him with only 2 hours to file the report.
Why are you investigating a suicide? There's mass murder in the ghetto every day.
Raymond is astonished by this question because 20 years ago, Will's father asked him exactly the same thing. The boy's prepared to be taken to the station, but he attacks the guards and snatches a gun. He then takes Sylvia hostage and puts her in his car. He is followed by Raymond, who rams into Will's car, turning it over. The guy makes the stalker collide with the truck, and the young people hide under a bridge. Will asks Sylvia to share her time with him, but she refuses. The girl also suspects the guy of killing Henry. They end up in Will's home ghetto and are trapped by Fortis and his men. The car goes off the road and they both lose consciousness. Fortis takes Sylvia's time and leaves, leaving her with only 30 minutes. Upon awakening, the young couple split their time to have some time to replenish their supply. 3 minutes before his death, Will knocks on Borrell's door. His wife opens.
You gave him a decade. Drank himself to death with 9 years on his clock.
Will is desperate, and Sylvia panics. Suddenly, the boy realizes that they can pawn the girl's earrings at a pawn shop. The owner gives only 2 days for them, but there is no time to haggle. Timekeepers are on their trail. The credit institution where Will's mother used to borrow time turns out to be Sylvia's father's business. The boy makes a call to Philip to demand a ransom for his daughter, but Raymond picks up the phone. Will wants $1,000 to be transferred to a charity that distributes time to everyone who's in need in his hometown. This must be done by tomorrow. Raymond warns that the boy will soon end up just like his father. All his life, Will assumed that his father died in a time wrestling fight, but Raymond answers that he didn't, without revealing the details. The fugitives spend the night in Will's apartment. Sylvia changes into his mother's dress, while the boy talks about his relatives. His father won many bouts, but was killed by giving away his time to people in trouble. Sylvia and Will turn out to be almost the same age. When the timer began its countdown, the boy used up the entire year in a week, and the girl immediately received a gift of 10 years from her father. In the morning, they watch as a queue forms in front of the charity. Everything goes on as usual, which means Philip has refused to comply with the demand. Despite this, Will walks Sylvia to the phone and gives her a gun so she can go home on her own. The girl worries about the boy's fate and kisses him before parting. Will stays nearby and is found by Raymond. Sylvia notices the gun in the timekeeper's hand and shoots first. Will examines the wounded man and sees that he only has 2 hours left to live. Instead of taking this time away, the guy gives Raymond 2 more hours of his own so that his colleagues can find him in time. The young people steal the keeper's car, but they are still short on time, and the police car attracts too much attention. Will blocks the road of a cab driver who is driving a rich lady in a limousine. After robbing her and taking the car, the couple get away from the scene and later see themselves on the news. Sylvia can still take advantage of the victim role and get away with all they've done, but she doesn't want to do that. For the first time in her life, she feels she is living her life to the fullest. A passion ignites between her and Will. Raymond reports to Philip that his daughter has become an accomplice of the criminal, and he will arrest her at the first opportunity. The millionaire offers to settle the matter with a bribe, but the incorruptible Raymond threatens to arrest him as well before leaving. Meanwhile, Will teaches Sylvia how to handle a gun, and the girl decides to help him carry out his plan to exact justice. They drive a truck into one of Philip's bank branches and empty the vault in front of a crowd of customers.
I am happy to announce that Weiss Time Lenders is now offering interest-free loans with no payments.
Later, Will gives his time to his dead friend's wife, Maya, and the charity. Raymond thinks they are doing a massive disservice, and to prove his point, more violence erupts in the streets of the ghetto. The locals buy guns to defend themselves against Fortis, and the bandit opens fire in response. Precious years are lost in a deadly shootout. A reward of 10 years is announced for catching the bank robbers, and Fortis intends to hit the jackpot. Philip does not understand why Sylvia turned against him, and his wife explains that he's been suffocating his daughter with his love. That same night, Raymond and his men surround the motel where the fugitives are hiding. Will hears the pursuers just in time, and the pair jump out the window to escape. Raymond is the only one who manages to chase them, and Will is forced to shoot back. The young men get on the bus, bribing the driver with a large sum of money so that they won't be reported to the police. But they don't manage to hide for long, and Fortis catches up with them at a motel. The bandit is not happy because he wants to restore the old order that Will broke.
The reason the timekeepers leave me alone is because I have boundaries. I steal from my own people.
But Fortis gives the boy his due and offers to find out who is stronger in a fair fight. Will realizes that it's a trick, but accepts the challenge nonetheless. The boy uses his father's tactics. He lets his opponent take almost all of his time, letting his guard down in anticipation of victory. At the last moment, Will turns the outcome in his favor. The bandit's henchmen approach the table to intervene, but Will snatches the hidden gun and kills them. That leaves only Fortis, who dies after losing all his time. Will and Sylvia are at large again, but their triumph is short-lived. To make up for the time they've given to the poor for free, the rich simply jack up prices. All the efforts of the new Robin Hood are in vain. Will says that only 1,000,000 years will truly change the situation, and Sylvia offers to try doing the impossible. The next day, she comes to her father and assures him that she wants to surrender. A crowd of bodyguards protect Philip, but among them lurks Will, who creeps up on the man and takes him hostage. The pair break into the vault and take the wallet with 1,000,000 years in it.
It could cripple the system. Let's hope so.
We're not meant to live like this. We're not meant to live forever.
Philip says that after a few generations, everything will go back to normal because everyone wants to live forever and will be willing to sacrifice others. It's just that not everyone is willing to admit it. Will can't contain his anger and almost shoots the man in front of his daughter, but stops himself. He will defend those who have their time stolen by scum like Philip to the very end. The young men leave, and Raymond spots the movement of a huge sum on his radar. He tries to stop the fugitives and block the borders, but Will and Sylvia break through the cordon in an armored car. Raymond continues the chase and catches up with them in the ghetto. Will climbs out of the car, and Maya runs right up to him. He only keeps an hour and gives the girl 1,000,000 years to distribute to everyone. People prevent Raymond from arresting Will and Sylvia and share the time with each other so it cannot be confiscated. Raymond gets into the car and catches up with the couple again. The man admits that he too has escaped poverty, but still believes in a system that maintains a gap between the rich and the poor. In the heat of the chase, however, he completely forgets about his time, which the guards always take with them in small quantity. Raymond drops dead, but Will and Sylvia's timer is also nearing zero. The guy wants to give his minute to get the girl to her destination, but she refuses. This is when Will realizes that they can refill their time in Raymond's car. Will gets there first and takes the cherished hours. Sylvia is running late, and the guy has to dash back to her. At the last moment, she throws herself into Will's arms to save herself from death. Thanks to their deeds, the boundaries of time zones begin to disappear, and people migrate wherever they want. The timekeepers are about to intervene, but their new boss orders them to go home. Sylvia and Will move on and load their pistols again.
Told you there were bigger banks.
You almost missed your calling.
As always, look for the name of the movie in the description of the video. In the meantime, let us know in the comments. How many years would you like to have in that world, and how would you use them? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video so that more awesome stories come out as often as possible.